Welcome to Window to Hollywood. Welcome back to Window to Hollywood. I'm so excited and honored to have our special guest be our dear friend, Mr. Erik Passoja. Yeah. Erik, thank you for coming and having a little hang with us today.
Is it okay to
How are
say
you
I'm
feeling?
Excited?
Yes!
I'm excited.
Now, show us you're excited.
I don't know how. If you can't feel it, we have a problem.
I can feel it. For those that don't know, Erik Passoja is a working actor, writer, and director in Hollywood. Recent credits include recurring roles on HBO's The Flight Attendant, networks, NCIS, and ALLBLKS's Lace. Am I pronouncing that right? ALLBL, All Blacks Lace. He's a lifetime member of the world-famous Actors Studio, a martial artist. He's also a dad, husband, and a son, and his most recent directing project is a music video, which I've had the privilege and pleasure to see, called Guru Money. Has just played 20 festivals and won 9. Congratulations, Erik, because I know that's been a passion project and a labor of love. Yeah.
So much love. From the conception of it to the shoot days, the cast and crew, like, we decided that on the first day I met with everyone, I said, here's the deal. It has to be fun. If you're not having fun today, you come to me. And I said, the whole goal of this is to have the best time we've ever had on a set. And you know what? There wasn't a day when, like, everyone was, I mean, it was vegan food. It was, you know, dancers, contortionists, and it was like a yoga circus of love. And I think it made a big difference in the final project. Well, if it's about the bottom line, then there really are only about 500 to 700 successful actors in Hollywood, and I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. I think success is how much fun you're having. Because I had someone ask me, I'm a martial artist, and he asked, you know, how do I win the national Shotokan tournament next year? What can I do? And I said, well, I can tell you this, but before I do, I want you to tell me, what is the end result of all this? He said, I don't know. I said, death. Because in 15 years, if you win, you're just going to be one name in a long list of winners of the same tournament. No one will know, and it's about your journey. So if you're willing to realize that it's an amateur art too. You're not getting paid for it. So you're not feeding your family. You're going to go into obscurity. So if it's not fun, take a hike. Go do something fun.
Yes.
Yes.
Because you're going to die and I'm going to die and it's all going to be gone. But you're going to be obscure much more quickly than other things, because some things, at least you'll have the money to take you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And acting, for the most part, for most people, it's an amateur art. It doesn't mean you're not amazing. It means we do this all day long for free, and then when they want us to go somewhere, they have to pay us.
I quote you regularly in classes about paying actors with regards to everything from memorization to, you know, the stuff we were talking about over dinner a couple weeks ago, of which I wish the entire conversation had been recorded because it was epic. Like, we even did like a little freaking coaching session, and it was like
so fun. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, a little bit of a slurry coaching session, I think.
Oh, I think so. Yes, definitely. It involves multiple tequilas. Well, listen, like, I'm always like, I guess, always so fun to talk to you because you love nerding out about acting as much as we do, you know, and the process. And we talk about it and toss it and turn it endlessly. Erik, what's going on these days for you? I don't know how much you can talk about all the things that are going on, but like, before we kind of get in, because I'm most excited to really just get into like process stuff with you and kicking away context and stuff like that. But what's going on in your life these days? How are you feeling? And if you can talk about some of the stuff you're up to, that'd be great.
Well, yeah, I would say this. The context that we live in is the only context there is. Because we have a point of view. Right now, I have a point of view that I'm sitting in this room talking to you, only you're not here. You're just 30 frames a second going in front of me. I can acknowledge that with my brain, but here we are. And my context is I read the news and I burst into tears. That's my context. Now, if you're an actor and you open the news and you don't burst into tears, you should read the news more often because it's going to make you a better actor. Now, what's going on in the world right now, we don't even have to date us in time, has me very, I'm not scared because honestly, I think, cockroaches are going to outlive us. So, whatever happens, happens. But what I don't like to see is meanness and cruelty and want. So if, Denzel Washington once said, I try to cry every morning. And he's arguably, by the way, I'm going to give you a lot of quotes, and some of them are going to be very poorly quoted, but that's what I took from it. He said something like that. And I realized, arguably one of the great actors of his generation.
Yes.
You have to be vulnerable from your own context before you can move to another one. Because if you can do that, if you want to do it, if you're a method actor, if you want to do a substitution, bang, it's there. If it's at your fingertips. If you want to find a hook, bang, it's there because it's at your fingertips. So right now, I'm working on 2 projects. I'm writing a movie, which is the hardest. No, it's the most challenging thing I've ever done. My friend Ernie Barbarush posted, making a movie is like being in a movie, except when you're making the movie's trying to kill you. But no, it takes you over. It's like giving birth to a child. And so I've gone from the music video to this. The other part of it is I'm doing a one act by a great playwright, Christopher Durang, tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
And it's really having me kick the context away from the writing, because when you have a writer like Christopher Durang, I don't know if you know, some people may know who he is. Especially if you're in theater, some people may not.
I'm definitely familiar with Christopher Durang especially from the New York days and theater.
Yeah, from An Actor's Nightmare to, he's, written for Carol Burnett. He's just truly funny, but he's also grounded. And when the writing is good, you don't have to play the writing. When the writing is good, you're just like, it came out of my mouth, and the audience understands it, knows why it was written in the context of its own structure, and you don't have to add anything to that. Go, oh, by the way, here's what I'm supposed to do, and here's what this means, and here's what that means, which is what they're trying to do with AI when they're having him act, and AI cannot act. So, it's about our impulses and what we're working on that has nothing at the surface to do with the scene that really creates the fun. So the context of the scene, the words have to inform, because I'll say, I'm blabbering, but I realized through screenwriting and writing and rewriting there is not a word that isn't carefully placed. Seriously, especially if I want to keep it under 90 pages. Honestly, like anything that doesn't fit has to go. Anything that doesn't either advance the plot or define character has to go. When you're acting in something written by someone like Christopher Durang, there's not a word that's out of place. He's one of the great comedic playwrights of his time. So I let that work for itself. It's called Funeral Parlor. And it's about a woman who's grieving her husband. Her husband is in a coffin at a wake. And I show up, and I'm clearly on the spectrum. And I'm trying to get this woman to mourn loudly, to keen for her husband. And she's a pent-up Episcopalian, And what's interesting is, after exploring this character, to walk up to someone and say, you must feel terrible. Or things like, you're all alone now, aren't you? You're all alone. You're alone. You're at a funeral. It's insane, right? So I don't have to be insane. I don't have to do that. I've seen so many versions of it online. I never have a problem watching other people do it. For the most part, I try to see what they do and not do that. Let me give you an example. The first line is, Susan, I'm so sorry. My deepest condolences. A lot of them, I've seen like 3 or 4, they shake her hand and they won't stop shaking inappropriately, right? And wow, at a funeral, this is inappropriate. That's a decision made by the actor that has nothing to do with why I'm holding on to her hand. And then they let go, and no, if I'm going to shake her hand, is it because I want to be there for her? Is it because I need human contact? Then we have a real context that's not in the scene, because Christopher Durang never said shake her hand. They got the idea, I'm going to act weird and off. So, the question is this person on the spectrum? I think yes. I think I'm on the spectrum. So I started watching. How do we define, I almost said the word. How do we define what indicates, and I don't mean indicating as an actor, I mean within the context of what you're doing, that you're on the spectrum. So what I did is I watched behavior of people on the spectrum. There was one kid who was talking in an interview, and every time he felt uncomfortable, he did this. And he was rocking. So that's how he soothes himself. And I explored that, and I explored that, and I explored that, and I realized by touching myself here, I'm protecting myself. Okay, great. That's an interesting behavior. That might come out in the scene, right?
Yes, beautiful.
And then everything I worked on, and also, by the way, people with autism, they often avoid eye contact because they're not comfortable with their feelings. They get really agitated. But every time I worked on that with my scene partner, I disconnected. And the fact is, guys, actors, directors, producers, writers, when you're in, it's not about you. It's not about you and what you're feeling and how good you are at being autistic. It's about your scene partner. Christopher Durang gets her, it's about mourning, gets her to keen at the end of the scene loudly. And then when we're done, I go, have a great day, and I leave. So it's about getting my scene partner, who can be a little pent up, to by the end of the scene, letting it all out. Now, if that's my only goal, I've succeeded. There is no context that says how I'm going to get her to let it all out. Yes. So, Josephine, you're going to love this. I have a picture, and I'm going to send it to you guys so you have it. And for those of you who are visually impaired, I'll describe it for you. It's two dogs in a picture, and they're the cutest little dogs. And the dog in front has a toy, and they're both looking up at the camera like this. Okay? And it's just, and we can talk about, oh, isn't that cute? Isn't that great? What the photographer is saying is true love and vulnerability exist. Now, if I take that context and I find a hook to it, that before I leave, we're going to love each other. That's crazy. Who the fuck would do that at a funeral? But I don't have to play anything. If I walk in there and I have that, we're going to love you. Susan, I'm so sorry. My deepest condolences. That's crazy. That's insane. What you do is you probably go, I'm so sorry, and then you leave. That's not what I do. And by the way, if I take her hand, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I'm going to do. But it's because it's about her, not me.
Yeah.
She's cut off. And I realize she's cut off. And I said to the next person in line, guys, I wouldn't wait. I'm going to be a while. I don't have to play on the spectrum. I don't have to play Rain Man. Yeah. I don't have to do that. Dustin Hoffman did that. So the context is the dogs. The dogs has nothing to do with the scene. But this guy is earnest. Otherwise, she'd leave the room. Right? So context to me is everything. And then, of course, it just takes your life over. Because now I want to start behaving like that in public.
Have you done it?
I've done it a little bit. I have this thing when I'm trying to reset that I do behavior. I take one step forward and one step back. One step forward and one step back every once in a while. Because when I know that I need to make a shift, by the way, I don't talk about my character in the third person. He, I. Because what we always talk, what would I do under these circumstances?
Exactly. You're on a talk show, you can talk about him as he or she, but when you're in I, you're inviting more of this person up through you. You're doing the work every time you use I, right?
And so when I realize, as Marcus, that I need to reset, I just take a small step forward and a small step back.
Mm.
That's interesting. Just right in the middle of the scene, small step forward. What? But what I need to do is reset. I don't need to behave as if I have a condition.
That's it.
So I'm going to start doing that in public a little bit today. And then I'm going to try to build a reality and then bring it in tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. You really have to know your lines to do this, though.
But this is really important. Yeah, this is really important. But what would you say to actors to get them to set the table in the right way to be able to do this? I mean, all I say is you have to be willing to let go of your obligation to what you think this is. We all live in our own completely different realities. So you have to completely let go of the idea of trying to figure this out in your head, or that the reality that you think on the page is going to be your reality. What would you say to actors to get them to set the table properly to be able to have fun and do this kind of work? What would you say?
I'm going to read something from my wall. I have a wall here of quotes. And this is from a reviewer who talked about a wonderful performance. What was the name of the most recent Paul Thomas Anderson movie that took place? Licorice Pizza. The lead actress in that. And this reviewer was talking about what a great actor does. And here's what they said. What does a great actor do? He or she strolls on screen with such authenticity and authority that they create their own reality distortion field, like all great stars do. They disturb molecules just by standing there. So, you said we all have our own realities. If you look at every great actor, they stand in their reality and they are not compromising on that because it's reality. And then they go crazy within the context of what they're doing, within coming from that reality. And so, Joseph, my button on it is this.
Your hook?
Yes, but when you open a script and you interpret it and you read it and you do it, what's on the page, that's what 95% of actors are going to do. They're going to try to find those moments and play them well. 95% of actors don't work. So either you're going to let that go, or you'll get hired once in a while by someone who thought you did their words better than everyone else who did the same thing. And you know what? Those people don't want the 5%. And the 5% don't want to work with those people. The 5% want to work with Scorsese. They want to work with Spielberg. They want to work with Paul Thomas Anderson, Alejandro González Iñárritu. They want to work with Jane Campion. Because Jane Campion is not going to want to see her words. She knows her words. She wrote them. She's going to want to be like, oh my gosh, where did that... It makes sense. I've never seen it that way before. Eugene? Who's this guy Eugene? Yes, yes, yes. And by the way, before she saw Eugene, she said, they were very good. They were very good. Oh yeah, I like them. And then Eugene comes in and she's like, oh, that's because Eugene did the 5%. Now, by the way, Eugene may be too tall, too short, too Asian, too whatever. That's not your problem. Your problem is going in and being able to disturb molecules just by standing there. And the only way you can do that is to know that it's not about you and how well you're doing the scene. And that's what a hook does.
Yeah, it's like, stop trying to get it right, you guys? Like, everyone's trying to get it right. They want to get something right, that there's like a right way to figure it out. But I love that because that answered, yeah, go for it, Erik.
Well, no, I tend to interrupt sometimes and I'm working on that.
No, I want to hear you speak because you're so inspiring. And I learned so much from you. By the way, I quote Erik regularly in classes and coaching, like what you send me, the various quotes that you send me, it's like in my Bible of things that I look at, weekly and stuff. So please, Erik, please go for it.
Yeah. My first line in the scene is, I've said it, Susan, I'm so sorry, my deepest condolences. Now, how would 95, let's say, sometimes you get a script and you just start reading your lines. You don't even you read it first. You're like, oh, how am I going to say this? If you didn't know the context of this, how Christopher Durang wrote it, the first thing you do is you'd be really sorry. And you give them your deepest condolences. 95% of actors are going to do that. 80% of them are going to do it well, right? And then you read the play and you realize that's not what he's saying at all. I mean, you realize that he's autistic and there's a hold, and, someone had the idea of shaking the hand too long. At least they recognize that the person's off, but that was in their head. Susan, I'm so sorry. My deepest condolences. For me, is a way of seeing where she is and if she's okay. Because we are going to love each other. So when I say it, it's my hook. And it's not, I'm so sorry. Because everyone's going to go, and then you go to the next line. And then you step back and you go, you can't play every little moment. If you play every little moment, people are going to see your process. You have to have that going on and then fluidly move on to other things, because nobody stays in an emotion more than 20 seconds. Nobody ever. Ever. And we try to push that emotional or be emotional. I don't know what's going to happen because I don't know what she's going to do next. What if she bursts into tears? What if my scene partner has a moment? I'm going to be like, the scene's over. Thank you. I'm done here. And then we're both going to have an awesome cry. And then we're going to do the scene again and see what we find.
Yeah. What is it about the present moment that scares the shit out of people so much that they want to run the fuck away from it all the time and wrap it up in a neat bow with choices and technique and all that? What is it about the present moment that's so terrifying or so awful that people want to run so far away from it? Because I'll tell you, Erik, most of my work as a coach is shutting down exposition and getting people to come back to themselves in the present moment. What do you think?
Yeah, and as we all know, there are techniques within the structure of that. I think most people most people are scared. We're scared. Some of us are working, some of us are not working. We're on strike. We go into an audition, we're willing to sign our lives away. We're willing to sign our souls away in an audition to do what's on the page, because it's much easier to fit into a groove and then say you did the work. It's much more challenging to put on a wingsuit and leap from a cliff. Now, I will say that if you're on camera and you can leap from a wingsuit still, and then not know what's going to happen next, the camera will pick it all up. You don't have to be like this because you don't know your medium. There are techniques involved within the structure of this. And I always ask, how are you framing me? Before every audition, if I'm not doing, how are you framing me? So I know. And then I know, because guys, we have Zoom. Get yourself close, get yourself far away, record it, see how your work translates. That's what we do. If you can do that and kick away the context, you have a career. But you can't hold on anymore. You have to suck. Can you suck? Can you suck for a while? Can you suck for 2 years? Please. Boy, I gotta say, here's another thing that came up. I watched Sophie's Choice again. Now, Meryl Streep had a moment when she's walking to the two men in her life and she's serving one tea and she puts a hand on the shoulder, and then she talks for the first time in the movie about having been part in the Holocaust and being Polish, and then she goes back to serving tea, and I'm like, what the the behavior, the lack of sentimentality about any of it. Her serving tea for him, her touching him, her communicating, not really wanting to get into being in the Holocaust with them, was palpable. But I also know a former teacher of hers at Yale who said she didn't always have that. She had to learn that. She was known for really needing to come out of her shell. She was known as the Ice Queen. Couldn't crack her ice. Arguably the greatest actress in the history of ever, had an instrumental block. It's fine. But she probably had to suck for a while to get through that. And then, Sophie's Choice. By the way, how old was she? 33? Guys, can you wait till, 27? Can you wait till then? Can you suck till then? Because if you can suck till then and do that kind of work, you're going to have a career that's going to make you so happy.
This is so important for actors to hear this. Like, I love how you're saying, can you please suck? Can you please be willing to suck? Before you walk through the halls of this, whatever, please be willing to suck. And that's a certain kind of person, Erik. It's a certain kind of reckless adventurer. It's bravery. It's really bravery.
Well, you know what scares the shit out of me? This is a comedy tomorrow. It's going to be a full audience of people. I can't be concerned with whether it's funny or not. If I need to add shtick, it might happen later, but there's going to be no shtick tomorrow. I'm going to be there for her and see if his writing can translate the comedy. Maybe we'll have some natural things, but if Neil Simon said, the key to comedy is need. If you look at all of his plays, it's all about Oscar and Felix needing completely different things, right? So if it works, it works. If nobody laughs, it's okay. And you know why? Because no one's paying me to be on stage tomorrow. And by the way, if they were, we could do another take. I haven't seen the takes of great stars that weren't funny. Have you? I'd like to see a few of those. Because there are a lot of them. There are probably times when Eddie Murphy, that man, delete that, man. I don't ever want to see it again. You know? or Bobby De Niro going, Robin, could have been a little better. You weren't connected. That was funny, though.
I love hearing about the moments on, God, I think it was Awakenings, when, like, serious, shy Robert De Niro, when, like, Robin Williams, would crack him up, and what that was like. I love hearing those stories. When people's veneers crack. It's so fun. It's like such a relief.
Yeah, I actually have a Robin Williams story that actually addresses what we're talking about. He was at a stand-up New York in New York City a bunch of years ago. Wow. And I got a call, Robin Williams on stage. So I took a cab to the West Side, and I went in, and he wasn't on stage yet. There were like 5 people in the audience. He just walked on stage, and within 3 minutes, the entire place was packed wall to wall. And he did an hour. He found, he went to, hey, let me see those cigarettes. He took some cigarettes, and he opened the cigarettes, and there was a joint in there. So he did 5 minutes on the guy having a joint in his, Robin Williams, right? It was hilarious. He did Yoda doing Shakespeare, everything he does. And he got off stage, and everyone swarmed him. He was shaking hands. And then all of a sudden, when people were talking, they went, where's Robin? Where did Robin go? Where did Robin go? And I went outside. He had put his arm around a homeless person and was walking down the street, and he took him to a pizza place. So know that he was connected to source. He was connected to his own context of what was important in life. And to be able to turn that on and off and be able to go into that with De Niro and do what De Niro needed probably in that moment. And by the way, the last thing is the original public performance of this little play by Christopher Durang was done by Robin Williams and Carol Burnett on the Carol Burnett Show.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
So it just happens to go full circle.
Wow, that's awesome.
And by the way, they did it as a sketch. It was a lot of shtick, which is fine. I mean, come on, Carol Burnett. And by the way, she was hilarious, but it wasn't, they probably had a week to work on it.
So this is cool. So is it starting tomorrow, or like performances starting tomorrow?
We're just doing it. We're doing it once tomorrow, and then at future sessions. The whole goal is it's not a class. It is a place for us to work on our craft between gigs, and it's to keep our razors sharp. Imagine.
That's great.
And yeah, imagine when we're off strike, I get a role that requires vulnerability, real vulnerability. Well, it's here. I got to tell you, I've been crying all week over this role. I'm ready for that. That razor sharp, and then this razor sharp, and then I'm doing Shakespeare this afternoon. You have to if you love it, and if you don't, you just want to wait for your next job and you want to go out and surf. That's fine too.
We talked about that a bit over dinner a couple of weeks ago. Like, do you truly love acting? Like, it's like, it's like people demonstrate that. We were talking about it, Erik, because if you don't truly love it, don't bother doing it. It's not gonna be worth it for you. It's not gonna happen. I can't remember the exact, how that conversation flowed, but it was really cool what you were saying about it. It's just like either you love it or you don't. And something about like the actors that love it, you could tell because they behaved in this way. This is what they did. You know, this is how professional they were. Something like that.
Well, I have to say, there's a 1 in 10 million person. Don't get in their way. Just turn on the camera. Just turn on the camera. I don't know what it is. There's no context in their work. They already know this. They have a hook every time. They have a new hook every time. That, you know, you just go, right? The rest of us need to break through something, as I said about Meryl Streep. Again, please, someone argue with me that Meryl Streep isn't a great actor, right? But the rest of us, as we go through that, we have to face that which is our worst fear. By the way, an inauthentic fear, and we can talk about this, our worst fear is to be humiliated in public because we will be separated from our tribe, and we're hardwired that way. If we are separated from our tribe and we humiliate ourselves, people won't talk to us. We may not have the means to get a job, or all the other stuff. We won't get a mate, all the other things, right? And it's deep, deep, deep down. If you can be brave enough to surmount that hump and stroll on screen with such authenticity and authority that you create your own reality distortion field because you've fallen so many times. What did the samurai say? Fall down 7 times, get up 8. That it doesn't matter. You gotta love it, because if you don't, you ain't gonna stick around. And it's just like a great sport. You want to be a professional football player and you don't want to break a bone ever? Bye-bye, right? You better love football, because you're having a 320-pound person running at you full speed to kill you. So this is how we train. We are athletes. Yes. You gotta love it. Gotta love it. You think I want to wake up every morning and cry? Yes, I do.
That was the Denzel Washington thing, right? Isn't he before he kind of gets down on his knees or something like that? Or was something about having his shoes under his bed, and because it puts him on his knees every morning to remind him, to be humble, or he had to try, I think you said earlier, made himself cry once a day.
I got to tell you, AI and a Google search will help anyone out if they want to find exactly what it is. But the point is, at that level, you also, at that level, at all levels, by the way, I spoke with a student of yours yesterday who is remarkably sensitive and talented. And she was she's really being pressured to do way too many scenes in too few days.
Thank you, by the way, Erik, for speaking with us.
Oh, of course. She's wonderful. I could see in her eyes just how profoundly talented she is. I got vulnerable for a second and she got vulnerable. It's like, oh, I'm working on this and she's great. I think, and I told her, you need to create a space for yourself. Is there any place on the set anywhere? Is there a dressing room, anything? And she said, well, there's dressing room, but I can't really use it because I'm shooting all day. I'm like, then find a corner and say to the AD, if I'm not on set, I'm here. You don't have to worry about finding me. Put stuff that makes you feel present, put on music, and be there for yourself, because you are that context with your own reality distortion field. And if you can't do that because you have 25 pages of copy, then you cannot allow yourself to crumble. You have to do aido. You have to strike your enemy and then put it back in and be willing to die. And she laughed, and that's what it is. And everybody needs to, I believe, all actors need to be able to create that space in life and then duplicate it in a trailer or duplicate it in a corner of the set. In other words, for me, I really like to put my headphones on and either listen to my subliminal affirmations or listen to my meditation music. And if I need to get fired up for the scene, I put on Metallica. It is what it is. And then we do the work and not let anything get in the way of that. Because at the end of the day, everyone's nice, everyone's friendly, but you're not spending the weekend with them at their country house. They're not your friend. They are people who work because they're easy to get along with. But at the end of the day, those contacts are heartbreaking if you get too close in a shoot. How many times have we finished doing a play and been like, I'm going to miss you? It's heartbreaking. So if you create your own space, at least you can realize that when that camera rolls, that's the only thing that matters. Liz Taylor was renowned for being like, you would watch her from the set and you'd be like, that woman is terrible. And then you'd see the footage and you'd be like, oh my gosh. Because like you were saying, Eugene, she grew up on set. And the other thing is, Marty Landau, late great Marty Landau, he said so many things that stuck with me. And he said, one of the signs of being a sensitive, talented actor is to being very available to what's around you. Very available. And you're surrounded by 50 people. And some of them are putting things on your face. And some of them are going, here, can you loop this around and can you clip this? And then someone going, last looks, and they're fixing your hair, and the director's whispering in your ear before they get interrupted by the costume designer who says, oh man, his gun isn't whatever, And if you can't find your space here and recreate it, then you can be like this, right? If you're talented. Yeah. If you're not talented, oh, no problem, man. And that's, nobody wants to see that. By the way, this is for actors. There is one choice you are never allowed to make. And for me, it's the first choice I go to, so I know I can always throw it out. You are not allowed to make the choice, I don't care. My character doesn't care. I don't care. Because you know what? Then nobody else will care. As Hitchcock said, drama is real life with all the boring parts cut out. I don't care is boring. I care about something more than I care about. This is why we watch Babies and Dogs. You're trying to talk to the baby and he's reaching for a ball, and you're like, well, but he doesn't care about you, but he cares about something more, and so we care. So if you're going to choose, I don't care about something else, so that this person is an annoyance or whatever, and that defines the relationship and the behavior. Don't ever say I don't care. And if you do, which I do almost every time, I'm like, I try to say it casually. I'm like, great, I can throw that one out.
Was Martin? I was going to say thank you for speaking with this actor, and I know how important that must have been for her. Martin Landau was the one that said, the text is only what a character's willing to share, willing to reveal. The 90% he or she isn't willing to reveal is what we do for a living. I love that one. That's one of my favorites. That's
well, he has two things around that, which is a great quote. So let me address that first.
Please.
I have 3 quotes from him. One of them I just printed out, which is saying you can't put a lid on anything that isn't there. So what your character is willing to reveal, okay, that's what you let out of the lid. But the cauldron, the work, the I am one who work, which is not in the text, which may never see the light of day. He said 95% of the work as actors we do, no one ever sees. That's the second quote, because it's really important to know that you're going to do a lot more work than is going to come out in that particular take. Are you okay with that? Then you better love acting, because otherwise you just wasted a lot of time, and it's not a waste. We had a great time doing it. But his concept, he said, we know way more about our character than our character knows about themselves. And I had a moment while I was putting sweetener in my coffee earlier. When I get into an argument with my wife, who doesn't get in an argument with their spouses? I'm not thinking about how I feel, how I can be angry, who am I substituting her with. What I'm thinking about is how wrong she is. Right? In fact, she's saying things and I'm already always listening, it's called. Already always listening to her BS. While I'm like answering, I have answers, but I'm keeping my mouth shut because I said I wouldn't interrupt. And that is what Marty is talking about. I'm not aware of my own self. So as an actor, I know way more. If someone were playing me in that moment, the best way to play me would be constantly wanting to interrupt her because that's what's actually happening. Right? So characters don't know. What we do is we get inside. Oh, this is the last thing. This is the quote I wanted to tell you. Someone in session, after they worked, said, well, the character is, and Marty said, wait a second. Can I see the play for a second? They handed him the play, said, where's the character? And he started riffling through, but I don't see a character. I see words on a page. What character? Well, the character as written by, no, there is no character. It
Amen.
is a name and some, if you don't even want to go to names, if you want to kick out that context, it is letters, it is ink on a piece of paper. We are interpreting it in a cultural and personal context to mean character, but at the end of the day, there is only you, period. Now you, if you're playing a character, so you've got to work with a British accent, that's okay, I can do that. And you may be a little stuck up, all right? So what does stuck up mean? I can look at it that way, but you know what? I get very sensitive to my own sense of smell. When I create something and I look at you, I can already hate your guts and be stuck up. Because I got to tell you, you've got to bathe or use perfume like the French, you know, and that's how you create that behavior without going, oh, yes, you have to, doing your best impression of Maggie Smith in, well, I don't know, but the Dowager can't.
Ian McKellen does a good one, by the way.
Ian McKellen. Oh, yes, I saw that video, yeah. Every once in a while, I do hit her, but not today. Yeah, it's a very...
Oh, this is awesome.
You don't really see very... Well, it doesn't really seem very appropriate for tea.
Oh, man.
Oh, this is awesome.
So that would be a put on. And there's no way you'd follow me. You're just laughing at the impossible impression of a character. But that's not a stuck-up person. She is a stuck-up person when she's doing it the way Maggie Smith only can. And that stuck-upness gets in her way sometimes. That's what the story is. But if she didn't have a real motivation underneath it, there's no story to tell. She's playing a And by the way, there are 100 people who can do a good Maggie Smith impression. How many people can play someone who's really, really can't stand the smell of someone so badly with a British accent that they hate your guts and you've never met them? That's a stuck-up person. So my context is this. Get rid of it. And then take the hints. Joseph, you're really into this. The hints. It's on the paper. It's there. You say something and you direct it to that person because it was written very carefully. So whatever your hook is, then you deliver that hook, saying, well, and my hook, let's pick a hook. I got your bobblies right here. Remember that one?
Yes!
I got your bobblies right here. Susan, I am so sorry. My deepest condolences.
Yes. Can you explain that hook? Or no?
Oh, yeah, sure. I actually ran into Rocky at a strike march, and we had a good talk. I was on the set of NCIS, and I'm recurring as the deputy director of the FBI on that show. And Joseph, because I had just gotten my second booking on that role, and I wanted to make sure that my second booking, I'm establishing myself, and then I have a whole world that I've created for this person who I am. And that there's always going to be stuff missing, but I wanted to fill in that 95%. And we came up with a hook. I'm basically telling the deputy director of the FBI that they need. I'm telling one of the heads of NCIS that he needs to do his job. And so basically, Joseph and I came, and I knew I had the upper hand. And said, I'm holding your balls right now. I'm holding them. And I'm going to jiggle them
under the
for
frame.
you. I'm going to jiggle. Yeah. And so what I did is the camera was close, and every once in a while, underneath the lines, I didn't say this out loud, but I went like that. So every once in a while, I'd say, so it would be something like, he's been arrested 4 times. Do you think you could maybe do the work for me? And really what it was this. Right. And by the way, that was one take. We did 2 or 3 takes of that, and I did a different hook each time because there's no point. There's no point. It wasn't. It's not as fun, or it didn't feel as fun. So I picked 2 different hooks that we figured out.
Good.
And by the way, that's not the one they took. They didn't take the bobbly one, and so I'm glad they took one that worked for them better.
That's why it's important to have a flexibility of multiple hooks. You can go in all these different directions. But the thing was, Erik, when you just did that, when you went through the story of that, what it did what I keep saying is that difference between good and great is you being lit up versus not lit up. And it just put a fire in your face and in your eyes when you did that. It lit you up.
Right.
You know?
Now, note this. Joseph didn't say you lit yourself up. Please, actors, understand this extinction. Extinction. Wow. We're going back to the beginning of our conversation in cockroaches. Note that distinction. Haven't you ever seen an actor push for an emotion? No, something lit you up, and that something is not about you. And that's really important. That's why Joseph is so good to work with, is because I'm paying attention to you, and you're asking me these questions, and I have to answer them. There's no way I could be like, I'm going to push for the emotion of this answer.
Because I'm trying to take you off balance. That's what we're doing. We're trying to take you off balance. Listen, we don't have a lot of time left. I was going to ask as much as you wanted. Listen, this may not be a fun topic, but can you explain briefly like what we are fighting for with AI? If people that don't quite get this, because I think we both all agree that AI is this wonderful assist. It's not, fuck AI, but like, what are we really fighting for here, Erik?
When it all came to a head a few weeks ago, by the way, I'm a SAG delegate. I call myself the AI delegate because I'm fascinated by it. I've been fascinated by AI since I was 10 years old, and I started playing with Lisp and then read Age of Spiritual Machines by Ray Kurzweil, and The Singularity is Near. And I'm actually very excited for the singularity. I think there's a heaven scenario and there's a hell scenario. And I really appreciate that our president has said this week we are going to have very, very specific rules, guidelines, and laws about AI. So I think most of us can agree that AI run rampant is a very, very dangerous thing, which is why movies are so important, because if we didn't have 2001 and Blade Runner in our consciousness, it wouldn't even really be a real conversation. But after how behaved in that movie, and after, dealing with the concept of off-world AIs coming to Earth and trying to live forever because they've been given an unfair shake, and Asimov and everything else, we've created an understanding about it that allows us to go from present day. From present day, a couple weeks ago, the AMPTP and SAG-AFTRA met, and we had discussed 2% sharing in revenue. They said no, and we said, okay, 1%. 50% of what we asked for, fine. And then we said, oh, by the way, here are our AI resolutions. We finally had them. And then AMPTP said, great, we're all going to go to lunch. They didn't come back after lunch. So the AMPTP thought that they were going to be able to use your face, Eugene, for one day, and then use you forever until the sun burns out throughout a cinematic universe, even in stories they haven't written yet, without paying you for anything beyond your original session fee, which, by the way, is something that Activision did to my face in a Call of Duty game. They took my face from a character. I was in mocap acting with a 2-time Oscar-winning actor in a scene, and mocap is amazing because there's no camera, so it's like theater in the round. You just talk and really listening. It's amazing. I got a call from a friend of mine when the game came out, said, hey, my son just shot you. Activision took my face, they put it on a PvP player, and people were playing my character and shooting people and getting shot, and they paid me my original session fee and not another dime, and they made $1 billion plus, more than Taylor Swift's 1989 Guardians of the Galaxy and Disney Pixar's Frozen combined in 2014. So the threat of AI is this. They think they can do that. They're going to take our stuff. They'll use it forever. And the difference between actors and performers, I'm not going to say actors because our union is not only actors, but background actors, acrobats, martial artists, dancers, voiceover artists who are actors. People who act, martial artists, I know from experience, it takes years and years of pain, dying, facing your enemy, broken bones like a football player. If you steal their movement from a FBX mocap file, they don't have a martial, that move is gone forever. So when you take our digital identity, you actually take our means of survival. You take a carpenter's voice, he can still build. You take a lawyer's voice, he can still do contracts. You take an actor's voice, they'll never work again. So that's the existential threat. And it's unique to us. So our goal is to make sure that doesn't happen anymore. And we're in negotiations with the AMPTP behind closed doors. AI proposals that I have not seen are being negotiated right now. But I'm in the bullpen for the committee, so we'll see what happens. Guys, your face, your voice, your movement, your digital identity is yours. It's not a company's forever. I could read you the contract that I signed. You show up on a set with a 2-time Oscar-winning actor and 30 other people, and they hand you a stack of paper and you sign. And by the way, people I know who have said, "What is this?" They said, "You can either sign it or go home." All right? In situations like that, literally thousands of SAG-AFTRA actors have signed their lives away to companies like Activision. So note that we're no longer doing that with AI. Because to train AI on you, train AI on you will ruin you. Rather, how do we train AI on you with a digital watermark and monetize the fuck out of it?
My God,
you know,
Erik,
we complain about
I
1 cent residuals, but 1 million of those is $10,000. Ching, 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 ching. So if we can watermark and track that with our own technology, use my face, use my voice, use my movement, please. Yes. Right? We'll be fighting to get that attention because the money will be so good. And if the contracts are in place, they'll have to pay us. Yeah. That's my philosophy on it.
Erik, thank you for everything that you've done and everything that you're doing and how much, just like everything that you've, and how much of yourself that you know, kind of hanging out there on this thing. Like, I wanted people to hear this. I've heard some of this, but I really appreciate you sharing this.
Thank you. You know, we are professional actors. Professional actor is like a professional basketball player. And if you're one of those 5 people on that court, there are thousands of people behind you online. Are you willing to do that with your life? Are you willing to train like Kobe trained? If you are, I pity the person that faces you. You know? And by the way, you can be vulnerable with those people too. Because if they're really good, they do the work. And we'll see who gets the ball in the basket on that take. But it's not about you. They have the ball. You got to get the ball. It's not about you. You can look how well I dribble. Nobody cares.
Erik, thank you so much. I want to be respectful of your time here. I feel like we could be just hours and hours of conversation about this. That's what I love about. But it's such an honor to know you, and like we've worked together for many years, and that's really special. Thank you for wanting to do this with us.
Joseph, thank you. You've made a big difference in my life. Your work is special. Your work, it honors the artist. It honors what they create. It honors what we create. And you don't break people down or say that's the wrong choice. You allow us to come up with our own ideas and create our own context for the work. And you do that by compassion, by really listening. And by the way, if you haven't worked with Joseph is there with you, man. He's like talking to you and working with you. He's not just sitting there like, oh, you know, I didn't really see this and that and the other. You know, and by the way, those people, you need to get away from them. You need to get to people like Joseph. Yeah. Thank you.
I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you.
Eugene, I love you too.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You can't say
it. Please keep sending me these quotes. Like, you know, like just keep sending them. It's like so inspiring.
Thank you.
Eugene, thank you so much. And
thank you. Thank you. No, this is great.
Thank you, Eugene. I'm grateful.
Have fun tomorrow. Yeah, I feel grateful. So grateful as well too. This is great. It's just like a taste, you guys, but it's just like, yeah, this is like an earthquake of a message to actors.
And there are people like us. You know that? You know, I met an actor from Iowa. rural Iowa. Now, when you think rural Iowa, you kind of think you want some dip. I went to wrestling camp, and you know, I got to tell you, they were. I think they were LGBTQ question mark. They were an actor. They were like law. You know, there are people like you, and the certain kind of people who do this kind of work are out there. We find these people, and I found you. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Enough.
All right. Thank you guys so much. This is hanging out with us for another episode. Greatly appreciate if you guys like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell. We love doing this and love hanging out with you guys as well too. So thank you all so much for watching and supporting this. Much love.